Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my top fives. Today we're going to be going over the top 5 cards in each color and multicolor lands for the new set Bloomburrow. So Bloomburrow is going to be coming out this week. By the time this is released, it should be out. So we're going to go ahead and get you up to date on some of the best cards for constructed in each of these colors. All right, so we're going to start with white. All right. The first one for white is going to be Whiskerville Forerunner. All right, this is it's a 4-mana card, so it is a lot, but its ability is very powerful. It's a 3/4. It has the keyword Valiant, which is whenever this thing becomes targeted by a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, either the top 5 cards of your library, you reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them, and you put it on the battlefield. If it's your turn, if you don't put it on the battlefield, put it in your hand and put the rest of my bottom library in random order. What's cool with this card is it triggers off abilities and spells. The keyword here is ability. So if you have a creature, which there are plenty of creatures in this format too, that the mice target each other, like giving each other like either double strike or first strike or trample. Sorry, double strike, trample, or haste, or even pumping it up to make it bigger. The mice work really well together. And this being at the top end is going to allow you to reassemble and rebuild and just threaten to kill the opponent next turn. This is a sweet one, and definitely in my number 5 for the mice archetype. Coming number 4 is going to be Starfall Invocation. This is the new board wipe. Keep in mind that we still have Sunfall in standard, but this is a nice alternate. So it's for 5 mana. You destroy all creatures, but if you gift them a card, so they get to draw a card when you cast this, you return a creature card. Spend the game furthest way on the battlefield under control. So depending on how much we need to exile cards, we might see Domain or Traxadex cast Starfall Invocation, killing everything, killing their own Traxa, and then bringing it back to life. I think Domain will still be a deck even after this. I know we lost the Triomes, but we still have the Surveil lands. It'll be slower for sure, but I do think Atraxa will find a home somewhere. We still have Cavern Souls, we still have Archangel of Wrath. So we still have Up the Beanstalk, Sunfall, Herd Migration, etc. So I do think Starfall Invocation will still see, or Domain will still see play, and Domain might play this depending on if they want to, how badly they need to exile cards for recursion or not. So next up is going to be Hop to It. This is an uncommon. Hop to It is a 3-mana sorcery. It just says make 3 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens. This is powerful because it makes tokens, makes an army, and this army can either be like pumped, used to convoke. Anytime we've seen cards like this that make tokens like for 3 mana, they've been playable. We had like one of the first ones was Spectral Procession, Hordeling Outburst. Now Hop to It, and thankfully Hop to It is in the go Y strategy or the token strategy for Bloomburrow. So this is my number 3 card. And I expect to see play, especially if there's token strategy or even in Convoke, depending on how many tokens you make. So this is definitely another sweet one. Coming number 2 is going to be another rabbit card. It's going to be Valley Quest Caller. This is one of the best lords I've seen. It does a lot for just 2 mana. For 2 mana, usually lords, back in my day, lords cost 3 mana for 2/2 and pumped only their types by 1/1. This is a lord for 2 mana. It's 2/3, and it pumps the rabbits, birds, and or mice you control. I'll get +1, and whenever one comes to play under control, you also get to scry one. So it's going to help you filter your draws on top of also just growing your team. So great card with the tokens card, Hop to It as well. So very solid card. Coming in at number 1 is going to be a bat. The Bat Cleric, Essence Channeler. 2/1 is kind of like the new life, like Johnny's Pride Mate. It's a 2/1. It says as long as if you've lost life this turn, the bat gets flying and vigilance. So it can get life. It can get flying and vigilance pretty easily, especially because there's a lot of pain lands in the standard, like Caves of Koilos. Also, bats are in the black-white archetype, so it's pretty easy to lose life if you build your deck accordingly. It says whenever you gain life, you put a counter on Essence Channeler, It's not limited once per turn, so when you gain life, you get to do it. And it says when it dies, you're able to move its counter to another creature, which is huge because in the past, you kill this and the threat's gone, but now you kill this and it's going to move its counter to something else. And if you're playing like a bat tribal deck, it's going to be pretty easy to put it on another flyer. This is a powerful threat on curve, 2-mana, 2/1 flying, vigilance. That's going to keep growing over and over in your aggressive deck. All right, moving on to blue. The blue cards from Bloomburrow. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Splash Portal. This is a cute spell. It's a 1 mana. It exiles a creature you control. It returns to the battlefield under its owner's control. So you basically get to blink, but we've seen cards like Cloud Shift see play for 1 mana. And it's not an instant, but it does let you draw a card, which is sweet. So you're able to blink something, and if it's a bird, frog, otter, or rat, you're able to draw a card again. And frogs really care about blinking, so that this could be a home for those decks, or decks that just creatures that would have strong ETBs. If you can like blink it and then draw a card, then you kind of have no proper ETB. I think this card is like probably one of my sleeper cards. I would say it's not crazy, but it does have a lot of potential. Coming number 4 is going to be another common called Pearl of Wisdom. So Pearl of Wisdom on the surface is just 3 mana divination. You draw 2 cards, but it costs 1 less if you control an otter. So 2 mana, draw 2 is pretty good. It's really good, actually. But what's really good about Pearl of Wisdom is the fact that there's an Izzet otter, we'll see it later, that also reduces spells by 1 itself. So with that otter, the Storm Chaser otter, this costs 1 mana to draw 2, which I think actually probably makes the otter deck playable. I have high hopes for otters. I played it during early access. I think this is going to be a sweet card in that deck. Let's see, and it's a powerful one for 1 or 2 mana to draw 2 cards is really powerful. All right, coming up next, another otter card. This is one of the best classes, if not the best one, from the set. For 1 mana, you get a 1/1 blue-red otter token with prowess. For 1 mana, that's actually not terrible. So that's actually kind of fine for 1 mana. Then we level it for 4 mana. You're able to regrow an instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. And this deck, since you're playing prowess, you have a bunch of options: either burn, card advantage, or what have you. And if the game goes late, which it sometimes can, you pay 6 mana, and then whenever you cast, it basically gives you an emblem, not an emblem, but like an ability. Whenever you cast instant or sorcery, you just make an otter, so you can just start going wide, which makes you very resilient to board wipes. Especially since Farewell is gone. Farewell is gone now, so this will stick around after a Sunfall or whatnot. And I was really impressed with this card as well. In early access, it just did a lot, and being able to regrow your spells that are cheap, and with otters, it just played very, very, very well. All right, coming number 2 is a clone. Usually clones, I feel like don't make the cut. I haven't made the cut since like Phantasmal Image, but I believe Mockingbird is different. So Mockingbird is a 1/X with flying. It says you may have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird, and that's flying. So why is this one so good, Ollie? The reason being is because you don't actually have to pay extra to clone. It's always the same amount your opponent paid, essentially. Like, so if you're copying a 2-drop, X only has to equal 1, right? If you're copying a 1-drop, X can just be 0. You'll copy it. So on top of copying your opponent's creature, you also can give flying, which is very, very powerful, very, very relevant, especially on a creature that normally doesn't have flying. And keep in mind, you also don't always have to copy your opponent's stuff. You can just also just copy your own thing, which is you probably going to be doing. Obviously, you have Mockingbird in your tribal deck, and you want to be able to copy your stuff. But it's just a very powerful copy effect. It's since like Phantasmal Image, I would say, super sweet, and it actually gives you a reward for copying, which is flying, and the mana stays the same. Comment number 1 is going to be Kitsa Otterball Elite. So Otterball is a sport that otters play on Bloomburrow, and Kitsa is a elite one. She's really powerful. I played her against in early access first. So 2 mana 1/3 with prowess and vigilance, and then draw a card, discard a card. That itself is really good, but the fact that she has even more text. So her ability is a copy target instant sorcery spell you control. You can use new targets for the copy. You can only activate it if Kitsa's power is 3 or greater. With things like Monstrous Rage, it's very if you Monstrous Rage Kitsa one time, she will have a roll token on her that gives her +1/+1. So anytime you cast an instant sorcery spell, you can copy it for two mana. The fact that you can attack essentially, and then if one blocks or not, you can cast something like Lightning Bolt, and then also copy it as well because she has vigilance and she gets triggered by prowess. It's just a lot happening for one card. This card was, I thought when I first saw this card, I was like, this card's good. You know, I didn't know how good it was until you see it in action. Like it's a draw engine. It's a kill. You can kill people because of vigilance. Especially things like vigilance and prowess. Not because vigilance, because prowess. You can block as well. So your opponent has to be careful when they attack because you can block. And worst case scenario, it's a looter if you have nothing else to help find you spells. So this card was super impressive. I think the best blue card in the set for Bloomburrow. All right, moving on to the black cards. Coming number 5 is going to be Iridescent Vine Lasher. It's 1 mana, 1/2. It says has a landfall. Whenever land ETBs, this creature does 1 damage to target opponent. This works very well with Fabled Passage. Fabled Passage was also in the set. It also has Offspring, so for 3 mana you get 2 of these, and you can very easily just like start pinging the opponent and just applying pressure, and the fact that it has reach. Also, the lizards care about pinging the opponents or dealing damage to them, because when you're able to deal damage to them, it's kind of like a bloodthirst mechanic where if they see the damage dealt, they do other things. This is a great way to get damage in early to buff your other lizards, or just to finish off the opponent late game. And what's cool about this card is like it's not necessarily, you don't have to play it in Lizard Tribal. It's just a solid card, solid 1-drop in of itself, which I really like. All right, coming number 4 is gonna be Season of Loss. Season of Loss is one of the paw cards, so she has choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. Season of Loss is basically a board wipe, or it can do more. Board wipe isn't because if you want, you can just make it do. Both players sacrifice 5 creatures, right? But it has more than that too. You can choose 2 paws to draw a card. Each card you control that dies this turn. So if you're playing a deck that has that sacrifices things itself, you can draw your cards back at least, or some of them back, depending on how many you have, or you can draw 2 back, depending again how many you have, or even after combat, let's say a lot of yours dies, you could drop a bunch of cards as well. But the fact this is a board wipe or a way to draw some cards by killing on creatures, but it's also a finisher too, because the 3 paws, it says each opponent loses X life or X number of creatures cards in your graveyard. So the fact that you can it's a wrath that hurts your opponent, right? Like we saw Sunfall, right? Sunfall exiles cards and leaves a body behind. It can the token can kill people. This can do the same thing in the right deck, right? You can make both players sack 2 creatures, and then you will drain the opponent for X, where X is number of cards in your graveyard, number of creature cards in your graveyard. So this card is definitely one of the good ones. Coming number 3 is going to be Hero's Downfall with Upside. So for 2 mana, it destroys our creature or planeswalker, but you get to forage. Forage means you have to either exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice food. If you can't, all you have to do is pay one more mana, which is nice. It's if you're able to fuel your graveyard or make a few tokens, this is a nice one to have. You probably can't play 4 of these, because we do have premium removal spells still in Standard, but the fact that this hits planeswalkers and doesn't cost you life or anything like Bitter Triumph is nice. So this is definitely one of the better removal spells in the set, I would say. Coming number 2 is a card that is pretty annoying, I would say. So for 2 mana, you need to look up opponent's hand, and you choose a non-land card from it, and they will discard that card. Sorry, not discard it. It actually exile it, so it's even better. But if you promise them a gift, so if you say, hey, you can draw a card, you may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may send mana as any mana to cast it. This is just really good. Like the fact that you can like exile something like Atraxa or anything really, anything, and then it becomes yours is super sweet. And usually discard spells have the drawback of like, oh, well, I drew it late game, so this kind of sucks, right? Well, you can just make them draw a card. Like if your opponent has no cards in hand, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna gift you a card and then I'm gonna take it, right? So it's very rarely dead. Obviously, if they drew a land, you won't be able to take a land, but still, the fact that it has that much value or that much upside, you know. And if they're playing burn or have a bunch of instants, you maybe, you know, you're like, okay, I won't let you draw a card, but still, the fact that they can do all this stuff for 2 mana is powerful, in my opinion. Coming number 1 is going to be Darkstar Augur. I think Darkstar Augur is the best black card in the set, especially for standard. So for 3 mana, it's a 2/3 flying creature, has Offspring 1, so you can pay 1 black, make a 1 copy of it. So give your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, and put the card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So it's basically Dark Confidant for 3 mana, but it has flying, and you have 2 of them. Obviously, if you play Darkstar Augur, you're going to want to have ways to gain your life back, and keep your mana curve low. And or kill the opponent fast. But the fact that this, like, it's almost impossible for the opponent to keep up with your card advantage if you got this, if you offspring this. If they kill one part of the token, you are still, or if they kill the card you have token left, you're still up a card, and that card is still gonna draw your cards. So it leaves your opponent in a weird spot. It's like you almost force them to have to deal damage directly to you in order to try to race you. But it's kind of hard to race you, especially if they're not playing burn. And if they kill one of them, you don't mind them killing one. You still have 1 around, and you won't lose life as much, and you still draw at least 2 cards a turn. See, and it's just extremely annoying and powerful. And this card I think is actually kind of nuts. I don't think a lot of people see it that way, but I think just give some time. We'll see how strong this card is, especially if we keep our curve low and have ways to like either sacrifice armed creatures or gain life. So this card is super sweet. I think Bob is back, but Bob is, this time he is a bat warlock. So a little different there. No longer human. All right. So moving on to red cards. Coming at number 5 is going to be this Dragonhawk's Fate's Tempest. It's a 5 mana, 5/5 flying. Doesn't have haste, which is usually what these cards need to be competitive. But the ability is just so powerful that it doesn't necessarily need haste, especially if it's triggering multiple times. So I think this is going to make Gruul 4 power more matter. Things like, because we saw some from the last set that has that 4 power, like Outcast Trailblazer. Let's say like 4 power matters. Well, this is a huge reward for it. So it says basically when it comes in play or attacks, so both, you exile top place cards of your library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. So you'll do one card if this is your only creature, and you may play those cards until your next end step. At the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. So this adds up as well. You're able to like play this next turn. You're able to attack, exile 1 or 2 cards, and then if you don't play them, you start hitting them and basically killing your opponent. Like you can choose not to cast anything from those cards and just deal like 4, deal 8 or 6. This is like it's going to kill very fast. This is must answer threat for the opponent, otherwise you're going to end the game quickly. I think that makes up for the not haste part, because it allows you to either play cards or burn or give you reach for the opponent to kill them. Coming number 4 is going to be Season of the Bold. Okay, this card surprised me actually. I wasn't sure how good this card is, but I think this is one of the best seasons, if not the best one, especially since the one I tried during early access. It reminded me of like Escape the Wilds. It's a little weaker than Escape the Wilds. It's not pure Escape the Wilds. You know, you can exile 4 cards and you get tap treasure. So it's not completely Escape, but you get to also have another ability, which basically is an emblem. So until the end of your next turn, so it's this turn and next turn, whenever you cast a spell, not non-creature, just any spell at all, this thing's Seasoned Bolt is going to deal 2 damage to up to 1 target creature. This is such a great way for these aggressive decks to clear the way of creatures. So you can Alpha Strike. It's also great because it's a great way to draw cards. So you can like you know pay 5 mana, draw 4, and get treasure. Next turn you can just play all those cards, and those cards can't be removed by Thoughtseize or anything. This card was just highly impressive. I really liked it, especially in Otters. Gave you a way to get prowess, gave you a way to go like kill creatures, gave you a way to draw more cards or get more prowess triggers if you want more treasures. It was just a very powerful and sweet card, especially now that we no longer have like big score. There's no big score, and there's no like unexpected windfall or whatever it's called, the 4 mana one. But what's cool what's cool that this card is too, you can play it in like a non-creature deck or a non-creature deck. It's curious about spells, right? So you can just cast any spell you cast is gonna deal damage. So again, super sweet card, very versatile, a lot more versatile than you originally think. All right, card number 3 is a Hired Claw. Remember earlier, Toady Lizards care about dealing damage. This is the one that deal damage early. So one drop for 1/2. So whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. It's going to deal 1 damage to them. And then you put a count on it. You can get bigger, and you can only activate those if opponent lost life this turn only once each turn. Again, so this can like stack up. Turn 1, you can play as 1 drop attack. They take 1 damage, and even if they have blocker, you make it a 2/3. And usually this is going to attack through anything that early, right? And then from there on out, it's going to do more and more damage. And again, lizards just have reach essentially with pings by either attacking or playing lands or whatnot. And this is just a great card if you play in a lizard deck or not, because it triggers off itself, obviously. So, which I like. All right, coming up next is going to be Emberheart Challenger. So Emberheart Challenger is a super powerful 1 drop. If not the best, one of the best in red. So 2 mana haste prowess, which haste prowess is already amazing, right? It's great on curve, great, you know. And then it has a valiant ability. So all these mice have this valiant ability. When you target them for the first time with vulnerability, they do something. This one is going to exile top card of your library, and until the end of turn, you're going to play it. It's super sweet. This is again also very powerful. I think this is actually going to be one of the best. I think it's really close with the next card, but I do think Emberheart Challenger is probably going to be the best, especially alongside this one too. I think they're both kind of tied. If not, Emberheart's a little better, but I put them side by side. I think I should put Emberheart first, but regardless, both these cards are great. So Manifold Mouse is a 2 mana mouse with 1/2. You want to play obviously later or after the other creatures, but it has Offspring, so you can make 2 of them if you want. And so at the beginning of combat on your turn, current mouse you control gains your choice of Double Strike or Trample until end of turn. So late game, this can be like a 4 mana Amber Cleave in a way, where you make 2 mice and you target the same mouse, give it Double Strike and Trample, which you've seen Amber Cleave do before, which was brutal, right? Just like it was like any decent size, it just quickly would end the game. I think this is going to do the same thing. Manifold Mouse is just a huge creature-based Amber Cleave in that way. Obviously, it can be dealt with by removing the creature, but so same with Amber Cleave. Like if you kill a creature, you know, Amber Cleave isn't going to necessarily. It's going to unattach and then go off next turn. It's similar to this, but you have 2 bodies. Again, just a very powerful card and a very powerful finisher. Both those mice are, I feel like mice aggro the thing of this is too, you can tell a card is great, especially a tribal card like this, because when it fits in a non-tribal deck, you can play it in mice, right? Actually, this one is not. This one actually, actually, I lied. This one you do have to play in mice. This only targets the mice. It does not target non-mice. So So this is second best, I would say. Another one, Impart's better because Impart doesn't care about mice necessarily. He's just a 2/2 haster. I'll switch these, but both these are great. And again, in early access I died this a lot. I saw what it could do, and it was just brutal. So I expected to see a lot of play, especially the prowess haste one at the very least. All right, move on to green. We have a Clifftop Lookout. We've always had this thing where it's like 3 mana, random creature, 1/1, Elvish Rejuvenator, loot top 5 cards in your library or whatever, pick a land, put into play. Sometimes you miss, which is you usually don't, but sometimes you do. They finally solved that problem. So with this one, when it comes to play, you reveal cards from your library until you reveal land. You reveal that land, you put it into play tapped, and there's a bar in your library in any order. It's also 1/2, which is relevant. Having 2 toughness, it means you can block X1s and trade, or 1/1s or whatever, like rabbits or tokens. But it also has reach. Being a 1/2 reach is massive in this format, especially with Deep Cavern Bats. Bats come into play. They take a card of yours. They're 1/1s. But if you play the Lookout, you get to ramp, and they can't really attack with those cards right now because they do, has reach. You could kill the bat, and your Lookout stays alive, right? And if they have to kill the Lookout and you get a land, you're up in value. So this one is a sweet one. I like Lookout, especially again because it blocks bats of the Deep Cavern variety. Coming on 4 is going to be Innkeeper's Talent. So for 2 mana, it's a class. It says at the beginning of your turn, put a counter on target creature you control. So post one counter. This reminds me of the Wolf 1/2. But for 1 mana, it says permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1, which is whatever, but it's also very cheap, very easy to get. But Ward 1 can matter, especially if playing against like a heavy removal deck. But then late game or mid game, you can level up all the way. So if you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those counters on that permanent or player instead. This is again so now you make it 2 counters on a creature. If you have more of these, it's more than 2 counters. If you have creatures that grow each other, it's kind of like a hardened scales, but not fully. But it is it's still pretty good because it also makes counters itself, right? Also important to know this will double poison because it says just counters of any type. If you put a counter on a player, it's going to double it, right? So if you poison them once, it's going to put another counter on those. Sorry, it's going to put another counter on that as well, right? So if you put 2 counters on them, if you poison them for 2, it's going to put two poison counters on them, etc., etc. So this is a very interesting card, especially in just aggro mid range, but even in poison, you can play in poison. All right, next up is y'all remember Champion of the Perished? This is a Champion of the Perished, but a frog. So it's a 1 mana 1/1 trample, which I think is really, really nice for this card. Champion of the Perished didn't have trample, but triggered off humans. Champion of the Ribbit. Whenever it says another frog, rabbit, raccoon, squirrel you control under the battlefield, put a counter on Valley Mightcaller. I think the fact that it's 1/1 that grows for your tribal synergies, that also has trample, is what's going to make it stand out. Not only like Champion of the Perished, you could eventually chump block. This one, you're not able to chump block it. It's gonna kill you. So very powerful 1-drop, and this has a lot of powerful 1-drops or early drops. And Valley Mightcaller is no different here. Next up is going to be Keen-Eyed Curator. Hello, Scavenging Ooze. This is a slight upgrade to Scavenging Ooze. Does cost double green, doesn't gain life, but it exiles cards from graveyard. And it's colorless instead of green, which is an upside. And then it says, as long as 4 or more card types are exiled with Keen-Eyed Curator, it gets +4/+4 in Trample, which is, again, different than Ooze. It's just going to clear your opponent. Maybe 7/7 Trample, which is massive. So different than Ooze, but I think overall this is better than Ooze if you can reliably cast it. And double green can be rough sometimes. I think you can reliably cast this. This card is just super solid. As a sideboard card, as a main deck card, it's just a great card for these decks Obviously, if you may like it, really depends on the metagame, but very solid card. Coming number 1. Remember I told you 1-drops are really good in the set? Well, this is a 2-mana 2/1 with Trample. And that's Offspring. So on turn 1, a 2-mana 2/1 Trample is great. And on turn 3, it's 2-mana 2/1 Trample. It also makes a 1/1 Trampler, which is also a Rabbit, which triggers the other 1-drop you can have, the frog one. It says whenever creature you control becomes target of a spell or ability opponent controls, put a counter on creature you control. Put a counter on creature you control other than that creature. So it's aggressive. It can be, and then it has counters, and then with the class that puts counters on creatures as well. So these go very fast, and they all have trample, which is pretty scary. Not only can they grow large and get bigger, but they also can bash through creatures with counters thanks to trample. All right. Next up, we can go to a lot of people's favorites. It's gonna be the multicolored. Coming in a 5 for multicolored is Lunar Convocation. It's a 2-mana enchantment. So at the beginning of end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. This is great with bats, but obviously not limited to bats. But so you gain life, we'll drain that, we'll hit them for 1. This is going to be end step. If you gain life and lost life this turn, make a 1/1 token with flying, right? So again, losing life can be pretty easy if you pay some pain lands, but this also gives you a way to lose life as well. So if you pay 2 mana, you can pay 2 life and draw a card, which will also trigger that other ability if you also gain life. So this is like a grindy card. It's going to make an army of bats, draw you cards, gain you life. It just does a lot for 2 mana. It's an enchantment, so it's kind of hard to remove. I think this card is sweet, and I hope someone makes a deck with it. It's very build around, but the build around it pays you off to build around this card. This card is super cool. Next up is going to be talking about lizards earlier. Well, this is kind of like the Lizard Lord. 2 mana 3/2, which is great rate. Has a ward, pay 2 life. So if you target it, if your friend tries to kill it, it's going to hurt them as well. And it says other creatures you control enter the additional counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. Keep in mind, like lizards very easily ping. We saw earlier how they ping by playing lands or by attacking. So it's going to make other lizards or creatures going to play bigger. But what's cool is as well is when we cast a lizard spell, this is going to deal 1 damage to target opponent. So your lizards you just cast them. It's going to ping them. They're going to come play bigger. You're going to play a land. It's going to ping them. You're going to attack. It's going to ping them. It's going to keep pinging them for 1 until they're dead. This is a powerful lord, especially with offspring. If you're able to offspring your lizards. Lizards also ping them. With some lizards that ping, they die. Lizards just ping everywhere. If they cast you spells, it's going to hurt them. It's just going to... Lizards are here just to poke them until they die. All right. Next up is going to be Raw Crackling Wit. This card is super powerful and super cool and super sweet. 4 mana. It's a 4 loyalty planeswalker. Raw can turn into an otter. It's +1, makes it 1/1 prowess token. An otter, of course, which is sweet. It's -3, draws 3 cards and discards 2. So basically it lets you filter your hand, which is also great. And the ultimate is to draw 3 cards. You can emblem with instant source spells you cast have Storm. This reminds me of kind of Tamio Collector of Tales, where ultimate was to draw 3 cards and you get Omniscience emblem. This one you get Storm emblem, which is both are insane. But what's cool about Raw is he has a static ability. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a loyalty counter on Raw Crackling Wit. So he gets to 10 faster than you think. Casting a few spells, especially if you cast things like experimental augury. It's going to draw you a card and then proliferate. So if you're proliferating, you'll get 2 counters essentially, or Volt Charge. And there's a lot of 1 mana spell. There's some spells that cost 1 mana that will do something and draw a card, or 2 mana do 1 damage, draw a card. But yeah, I think Raw is great in an otter deck. And I think people are going to try to build him without otters and try to build a storm deck essentially, and try to ultimate him as quickly as possible. But I had a lot of success with this card in otters myself, so Huge fan of that. Next up is going to be Mabel, Heir to Cragflame. Mabel is the Micey Lord. The 3 mana, 3/3. Other mice you control get +1/+1. But what sets her apart, I think, is that when she comes in play, she makes a legendary token that's called Cragflame. It's called Cragflame, and it says you can equip over 2. The creature has Vigilance and Trample and Haste. So she 3/3 comes in play, which is fine, but the thing she gives you is also very powerful, especially like after a Wrath or something, right? Or just for 5 mana, you can play her, put the equipment on her. She's a 4/4 Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. And then the future on, you give other creatures for 2 mana, Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and +1/+1. Just keeps the pressure up, and allows you to close the game out. So I feel like board wipes are going to be much weaker this set because of cards like Mabel. All right, coming number 1. Listen, this card is sweet. I love otters, and this one was a very powerful one. For 2 minutes, 1/1 with haste and prowess. Again, haste prowess is a powerful abilities, but also has a super sweet keyword. It says instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Again, we talked earlier about the pearls, the Pearl of Wisdom. It gets reduced 1 because this is an otter. It gets reduced again because it's in sorcery. So on turn 3, usually what I'll do is say this is turn 3. You play it on turn 3. You have one blue open. You cast that spell, draw 2 cards. So even if they kill it, you still get to draw 2 cards. If they don't kill it, you get a haster, and then from then on out, if you untap with this, your spells are obviously cheaper, and it kills the opponent. Like, it just gets bigger. It's a threat too. In the past, the cards like this were like 2/2s, right? They weren't like necessarily like didn't really kill your opponent. This one just kills your opponent if time goes on. So and leave it untapped. Super powerful card, and super cute card as well. All right, moving on to the last section, will be the land cards. It's land cards in the set. The first one's gonna be it's hard to say. 3 Tree City. Say that 3 times fast. 3. Anyways, legendary land. It says that when it comes to play, you should choose a creature type. Adds 1 colorless mana. However, you can pay 2 mana and tap it. And it's going to add 1 mana. The amount of mana of that color equal to the number of. Sorry, choose a color. It's going to add mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control of that type. So you can name obviously you name like otters or elves or rabbits. Rabbits go wide. Make a lot of tokens. So this could be like we saw the card called Hop to It. So we could see that in the rabbit deck. This does need 4 creatures of the same type to start netting you mana. Because if you have 4, then you tap two lands essentially to get you net 1 more mana. From there, it just gets better. But I do think it's kind of hard to do, and I always think it's risky to go wide because it makes you more susceptible to a board wipe. Nykthos is great because it also gives you devotion. Mana devotion, and devotion isn't always just creatures, right? So, but yeah, this card is sweet, especially for standard. I think it's probably parallel for standard. Next up is going to be Oak Hollow Village. So these lands are sweet. They come to play untapped. Add green mana, but only for a creature spell. But like this one, what this one is, you can tap it for 1 mana and a green. Sorry, tap for a green mana and put a counter on each frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control at the end of the battle for this turn. I keep mentioning Hop to It because I think the card's sweet. But like green white tokens has this now, and basically for later in the game, if you have like 5 mana, you can play Hop to It and make them all 2/2s. So make basically like 6/6s with the power. So I think this card is sweet in that token strategy I talked about earlier. I do think the land better than this though is going to be the Rockface Village. It's 1 colorless or add 1 red for a creature spell. But what's cool about this one is it's going to help you finish off the opponent. It's going to give your lizard, mouse, or otter, and your raccoon haste and +1/+0. So not only is it haste, but also grows with the creature, and lets you essentially attack that turn. So on board wipes late in the game, you can just be okay, well, let me play this, give a haste, pump it up, and attack you, which makes I think These creature decks very resilient. Things that I would give this one. This and the green one are my two best ones for Bloomburrow. They're all good, but these are my two favorite. Coming in at number 2 is gonna be Fountain Port. We saw how powerful Mirix was, right? And sure, Mirix doesn't cost life, but this has colorless mana. You should have a token, so a few tokens or whatever, or treasures, whatever token you have lying around, or even a rabbit to draw a card. You pay 3 mana, pay life to make a 1/1 blue fish creature token. And I'd be like, okay, Ollie, well, Mirix didn't cost, life to activate. And you're right, it didn't cost life, but for that, you get more abilities. But you also, this fish token can block, where the Mirix token could not block, right? And I think that's also very relevant. Also make treasures for yourself as well to draw cards or ramp you. These cards just wait for long game decks or control decks. Super solid card. And coming number 1 for lands, especially for standard, just gonna fail passage. Especially since our mana is worse. This is a reprint, but fail passage is just a land that's going to fix your mana, especially if like 2-color decks don't play it. Landfall matters because there's lizards that care about landfall. There's cards that bring back lands from the grave back to the battlefield. Fail passage does all that. In mid-late game, it's going to come untapped. If it's your 4th land, it's going to give you the land to play untapped. So super solid card. Huge fan of this card. I'm glad it's back. Yeah. So this is my 5 my top 5s for Bloomburrow. I do think this set is massive to standard. I think it is. Because of rotation, and the set is going to make creatures matter a lot. This reminds me very much of Lorwyn, where it's like, okay, we're playing Lorwyn, and all these cards, there's a bunch of creature cards that do a bunch of stuff together. So tribal synergies is galore, and there's a bunch of stuff that like protects your creatures or gives creatures haste or makes tokens of creatures. So I would buckle up for more creature heavy standard this go around. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the videos. If you like this, please hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment. Really appreciate it. And also keep in mind, if you shop at CoolStuffInc.com, you use code Ollie5 to save 5% off your entire order, and you get a sweet Ollie Eldrazi treasure token. Come watch live over at twitch.tv/Ollie Eldrazi. Thanks so much. Appreciate you watching. Peace, YouTube.